In this episode, I'm talking to Ian Minton, CEO of Happy Drinks Co. Ian has an interesting story as to why he started Happy Drinks Co. Happy Drinks Co. talk about being on a mission to revolutionise the soft drinks industry, eradicating the need for artificial sweeteners by giving people natural choices that are full of flavour and free of restriction. Ian, welcome to the Zeus Founder and Chief Podcast.
Thanks, Paul. Great to be here.
Two Liverpudlians sat on Mayfair. We've not done too bad, have we?
Not too bad at all.
Right, I want to dive straight into your own personal story first before we talk about the business in detail. Why did you start Happy Drinks Co?
I suppose the real story for the Happy Drinks Co is based around time. Well, get the violin out. It's for a story of health for me. So at 23, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, pretty much overnight experience. Had all the symptoms, but didn't quite understand what was going on with my body. Okay. Think back, I'm 40, approaching 41 now, full of alcopops. 23, it was a great time for sugar and enjoying life. And then pretty much overnight, it was a game changing time for me in terms of what happened and what I needed to do with simple things. So diet at 23 is something that you don't really consider. So going from a normal life, consuming food, drink with sugar, into quite strict diet foods, diet drinks, and found over the years that there wasn't many options. So that stimulated my thoughts, as you do with Google. You think, how can I make a drink? Quite quickly, that went from an idea and a bit of a Google search to where we are today. And it's now quite a significant business on a real mission, as you mentioned in the intro, to get rid of artificial sweeteners, which were where I found myself having to play in. So it was diet drinks, chemical sweeteners, lack of flavour, no real choice, and that's where we started Happy Drinks Co.
Okay, thank you. I know obviously about the business. I know a little bit because you've helpfully educated me in terms of plant-based ingredients, etc. Talk to me about stevia, why stevia is particularly important for Happy Drinks Co.
I think stevia is probably the most important part of our business, the natural side of the business. When I started out this mission, it was to make flavoursome drinks, and the options were 0 calories, so 0 sugar. It would have been artificial sweeteners, what I often reference chemical sweeteners. So stevia was the new kid on the block in 2011, 2012, and that was quite a considerable time ago when I started to play with this idea. Stevia hasn't been as simple a trade to put into drinks. So
what is
sugar
stevia then, to help us learn it?
It's a plant. It's a plant that's 300 times sweeter than sugar. So if you think of sugar being one plant that will provide that sweetness, stevia is a similar plant to sugar cane, grown in similar environments, but it doesn't give you that calorie count, so it doesn't give you the blood sugar change and things like that. So it's a natural plant. The way it's extracted is taken from different parts of the leaf to give you different types of sweetness. Yeah. Okay.
So how did you first start learning about stevia?
So stevia was put to me by a flavour house. It was a new thing in 2012 for the EU. It's been in drinks and food across the world for many years. But in the EU, it was only given its legal status in 2012. What interested me about it was the natural offering, and that's why I was so interested. Seeing how that worked with drinks has been quite difficult, so it's been a journey for us to get something to work quite well.
Okay. Why taste or ability?
Yeah, mainly taste, reputation. Big businesses have done it before. Coca-Cola have tried it, Tropicana, and it hasn't worked. It's failed, so they've just taken sugar out and put stevia in. Okay. That's not something that we do. We're looking and we use. I'd probably say we use sugar as a bit of a role model in terms of flavour and taste. So we all like sugar. What we don't want is the calorie side of it. So we use sugar as the benchmark, and we try and achieve as close as we can to that sugar-like taste. It is different. It's a different profile, but we're getting closer and closer to seeing something that really does work.
Right, and without trying to land you in any potential hot water, then why is sweetness so bad?
I think it's a matter of opinion. I mean, we've seen a lot of papers recently saying, studies have been done in universities to just tell us what is in these sweeteners. I think it's a simple choice. The world that we live in today, we shouldn't have to have artificial products in our bodies. There's natural opportunities. I'm just one of them. We create drinks with a natural sweetener. I think something I read a couple of days back was 2.2 million people in the UK are currently having sweeteners, artificial sweeteners, up to 4 times a day and not even realising they're doing it.
Okay.
It's in our toothpaste.
Yep.
It's in chewing gum. It's in our soft drinks. So you think you're doing right by having a diet option, and really you're taking a natural option and replacing it with something chemical or artificial. That baffles me in today's age, especially when you consider where and what we're doing and who we're giving it to. So, we're looking to our children, our loved ones, our friends, our family, and we're thinking we're doing right. Mm-hmm. And actually, I firmly believe we're not. If I ask you the simple question now, what would you rather have, natural or chemical or artificial? Surely your answer is going to be natural. I'll ask you, what is it?
It's natural.
Yeah. So, this is something that scares me a little. And what we've seen with the sugar levy, there's a new legislation coming in, or is in now, called HFSS, which is high fat, sugar and salts. It's the government's way of stopping these high sugar products being sold or promoted. And the way in which the big boys are winning is swapping out sugar for artificial sweeteners. And we'll see for the first time in a long time, Coca-Cola now, the traditional original can that we've seen, is being outperformed now by Coke Zero. So artificial sweeteners are winning, sugar is now losing, and that's because of the taxes. So their investments are going into this artificial sweetened world, which I just don't see sustainable for the human. And right, it doesn't feel right. We're in 2022 and we have electric powered cars that can go up and down the country. Surely we've got to start focusing on our bodies too.
No, I get it. You're definitely preaching to the converted here. So you give me a bit of background in terms of some of the sort of core ingredients, or at least if I call it sort of, quote unquote agenda that is around this particular subject. Let's dive into the business then. Talk, and you can either go step by step, or you could do it by brand launch or any sort of milestones that you've hit. To educate us around the journey that you've been on, from the start up to where you are today, and any brands or retailers, like say milestones that you've hit along the journey. Yeah,
I think it's been a journey. There's still a long way to go as well. As any startup, you're faced with different challenges every day. One of our biggest challenges for us was we were successful with a brand concept. It's probably too early. So what I mean by that is the brand. So our first brand, Skinny Tonic, give you a bit of context on that. I know you know this, but it's a mixer, so a tonic. So if you think of Schweppes, Slimline, Fever Tree, it's a mixer for what was at the time aiming for the gin market. Mm-hmm. Brand was great, look and feel was great. You'll see us on our website, or if you see a product, it's a very clean, different approach to it. So it's not very, what I'd call stuffy. So it's a modern approach to it. Clean, simple colours, and really nice flavours. Back when we started, we probably didn't have the flavours right, but the brand concept looked great. So we were probably targeting more. I mean, I don't think this is the right word, but I more functional, medicinal purposes than enjoyable gin and tonic purposes. Okay. So you would look at the people that were looking at calorie counting diets.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
And that's where we won. Where we lost was I would say it was a 5 or 6 out of 10 in terms of flavour and sugar like delivery.
Jumping around a little bit then, as in where you are today, or you probably recognised at the time but realised?
Where I recognised it at the time. and we were trying to achieve more each day. That's 4 years ago now.
Yep.
We've spent the last 4 years, and we will for the next 4 years, challenge everything we do daily.
Okay.
So we want to be better all the time, and that's in whatever we do. So that journey started really well. So we were listed in 300 stores in Asda. Couldn't be happier when we received that. Next challenge was that period when we got listed. Quite a shock to me at the time was how naive I was in terms of supply. So if you think back a couple of years where plastic bottles all of a sudden became the enemy, single-use plastics were seen to be, don't use that. What that meant for us, we were launching in aluminium cans. So where I thought I had the supply chain all locked down, when we actually got to the order from Asda and I said, right guys, can you make this for us now? They said, yeah, we can next year. Said, but we're in January now. He said, yeah, you're going to be 18 months before you can get on the line.
And assume if you get an order from a customer such as Asda, it's what?
Well,
in store next month?
Yeah, so we got sort of notification in January, and it was launching in March. So we've had probably 45 days to get the product made and delivered and shipped. And it was amazing to think that we'd won this listing, and we're going to fail. It was all these highs and lows of a startup. So as you do, with no knowledge of manufacturing, you go out and try and invest in a canning line, and that's exactly what we did. We got a what now is quite a slow line, 6,000 cans an hour at the time. Didn't feel slow. We managed to get it up and set up in about 35 days.
Okay.
And that was from shaking hands on a unit which felt huge at the time. It's 6,000 square foot.
This will be in Liverpool, yeah?
It was, right next to the Entry Racecourse. Okay. So great views of the National. I remember with the day I walked in with the keys for the first time, and I thought, wow, you could fit a football pitch in here. You couldn't quite quickly realise that, but we set out. We achieved our goal. We got onto the store shelves. And we started to see a reasonable rate of sale. What happened quite quickly after that was we realised that because of the noise that had been made, we started to have people come to us. When I say people, it's probably the best thing that ever happened. There was a company called Synergy. So it's our current flavour house. And they approached us and said, look, can we work with you? We love the idea. And we then spent, and we still do now, a long time working on flavours. That's when it opened my eyes to see how poor our product probably was for the masses. Okay. So people were accepting it for its calorie or lack of calorie benefit, but flavour was missing, I thought. Then
the principal reason at that time you probably felt was that calorie zero.
Yeah, so zero was the king, and flavours probably sacrificed. And the stevia, the type of stevia we were using wasn't the stevia that we now use. So we've learned a lot from then. I won't bore you about that, but if you think about the product that we were using then, it was a stevia called Reb A, and the stevia now is called Reb M. The price difference is probably 3 times difference, and the extraction system is totally different. So we now know exactly what we're doing with which part of the leaf to get the nicest, sweetest taste without any of the downside. So moving from then, we then realised that we had a canning line that was probably too big for the volume that we were delivering. So we had 80% capacity. What do you do with 80% capacity? We fell across a conversation with Lidl UK stores, and they wanted a tonic, and we made the tonic. And then we quite quickly realised that we're in this manufacturing world now. Mm-hmm. That took a different direction then for the whole business. So
you're sort of touching on 2 different parts of the business then, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Talking about your own product,
and
then producing product for other people.
Yeah, and the 2 totally different types of way of operating.
Did you split the business into 2? Or?
No, the business stayed as one. So the business is as it was then, as is now. It felt very much a split. So you had one hat on working for a retailer,
yep.
and one was a brand. And and it works different. It still works different today. You know, you have passion about both sides of the business, but obviously the brands are your baby. So that's what we really focus on. And 2023 will be the year of our brands.
So go on, touching the brands, and which is going to be a sort of later question for me, but whilst we're here, how many brands have you got in your current portfolio? What's the hardest part of developing a new product or new brand?
I think the hardest part then versus now was people. You know, having the right people at the right time, doing the right thing. Developing a flavour now, in my opinion, is the most fun. We've got one brand which stays true to our mission, but it does have sugar in, which is a brand called Eden Bay. It's now the third biggest tonic in the UK and Ireland. In UK and Ireland in terms of retail sales. So it was a crazy brand because we don't invest in it from a marketing perspective. It caters for the budget end of the market. It's a fantastic product. You know, all the same ingredients as the best products out there. Yeah. We sell a can of Eden Bay every 1.3 seconds, which is quite a shock. Quite a shock. And it's an established brand now. It's a bit of a curveball because we didn't see it coming.
And we'll buy the same.
So it's currently available in Lidl, Asda, Iceland stores, Home Bargain, B&M Bargain. So it's around that. By my own admission, it's taking the market leader's Fever Tree and making a replica budget version for the masses. What we focused on with that though was quality. So we did, we've made a product that is quality, and so we don't invest in marketing. So it's the marketing is the price, and it works. What I'm most passionate about is the USP side. So the brands that are naturally sweetened. We've now got 3 brands that I can talk about that you all know and see. One that's in development. So Skinny Tonic, which we've recently rebranded into what is now known as Skinny. So we've took all the feedback over the last 2 years, during which time COVID hit, which we managed to get a lot of online feedback, which is great. So I think as it is now, we're still the highest reviewed mixer in the UK on Trustpilot, with a 4.7 out of 5, which is great. I think we've got just under 1,700 reviews on there. We split that out now with the feedback that we've got from our consumer base. So we've got your traditional older demographic tonic with quinine, then the mixer range, which is more of the younger millennial Gen Z, typically don't want that bitter taste, and then we've got the ginger, the 2 gingers now. So great brand, really great brand, love it. Our hero brand, and what we stand true to, launching this year. In 2023 in an aluminium bottle, which is going to be really exciting. So focusing on the on-trade for 23. Next we've got one which makes me smile. You can't not. Happy Soda. We partnered with the iconic Smiley. So if you know or don't know Smiley, but you'll see them on pretty much every fashion collaboration across the world. From what recently Richard Mille watches, celebrating the 50th anniversary, to Moschino, Dior.
I think you're more fashionable than me.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not looking at the way you're dressed today. So. But great brand. This is focused at the mainstream sodas, and I'll tell you an honest story now, and it's something that's shocked me. So Coke Zero was my sort of almost addiction. So I'd be drinking between 6 and 10 cans a day, and that is honest. I think the last time we met, I had one in your office or 2. It's quite scary. So I was that guy, having all the artificial sweeteners. We manufactured the first product off the line of Happy Soda, 8 flavours, and they're all lemonades, orangeades, that type of full of flavour type product. We launched probably 6 weeks ago. I haven't had a can of Coke Zero in 6 weeks.
Good effort.
And it's not our choice, as in, I'm not going to do it. With this at my disposal now, it's changed my life, genuinely changed my life. So now I can have fruit flavoured products without having to take insulin. Do we touch on the fact that I'm type 1 diabetic? I suppose that's the story that we talked about earlier, but it really is. I would have to if I had an orange juice, for example, simple orange juice, I would have to check my sugars and then take insulin, which is just a nightmare when you're having a drink. You just want to refresh yourself. So now I'm back in that world from when I was 22, 23. I can pretty much do as I please when I'm drinking happy soda, skinny tonic.
That's incredible.
So, that's important to me in my own personal story.
That's powerful.
It also plays into so many different stories. So it's not just about diabetics. It's about people, yourself, you're a very healthy person. If you're a little bit bored of water, you can dip into an orangeade or a lemonade and still get that real flavoursome delivery without any of the nasties. And then I suppose one of the most potential, I think, potential game changer, if you think about our children, the next generation, we're still giving them products, and I won't mention names, but I'm sure products that have, I checked just before we came in here, a product that's got 11 different ingredients in. Ours has 4. Ours are 100% natural. 4 or 5 of theirs in their ingredients list are artificial. So I said I wouldn't. I will. Fruit shoot. Let's take fruit shoot, for example. We've got a product launching in January, partnered with the iconic Emoji brand. Emoji DRNK. We're launching in 4 flavours, 100% rPET, so 100% recycled plastic bottles. Target audiences sort of 3 to 10. We all know what fruit juice is. We all see it at all the different parties, school lunch boxes. We have no idea what's in them, and I'm not going to make this about fruit shoot, but about what we're doing is we're being very transparent now. If we're going to be honest and transparent to ourselves, surely we want to make sure what we're giving our kids is good and clear and honest. So a product that launches for us in January, which I think is going to change certainly the school markets, is full of flavour, again, 100% natural, 0 artificial anything. So what you're getting with us is a really good product.
Sweet. I wanted to, this was one of my questions again. I mean, I'm to scratch off most of my questions because you're kind of talking them for me, but this is one I did want to pause and spend some time on. So I've had your prototypes, the emoji product, and I gave them to my boys. So first and foremost, unless you've changed the sort of look and feel of them, so it's a purely transparent, so it looks like water. So the kids immediately think, water, boring. And it wasn't. It had whatever flavours that it was that you gave us at the time. And if I think to myself now as a parent, whether you're going through one of the supermarkets and you're trying to, because you don't always want to give your children just water, because I'm conscious and I'm aware of what you give your kids, but in the same breath, you want them to have a little bit of flavour or something. Tend to stay away from fizzy drinks for obvious reasons. My children are only young, but you end up in the same kind of products that you've mentioned. And it was only then from having met you, careful not to swear, but you suddenly think, Christ, there's some baddies in some of these products.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do here will provide children with a nice drink, which will give parents I'm not just giving them water, so therefore they sort of can look themselves in the mirror, conscience kind of can be clear here a little bit, but we'll also go to a bigger theme here where we all read headlines about obesity levels and your own diabetes experience. Surely this is a bit of a groundbreaking product for you guys, and you must be able to see the size, the opportunity to be able to create not only a meaningful product that will hopefully generate profits and raise the profile of the business, but actually go to do some good.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying. I think what we're doing here is, I mean, I've asked this question a few times. So obviously we've gone through 2 brands, but Skinny Tonic being the starting point. And if we went for a gin and tonic now, you probably pay what? We're in London, £9-10.
Now, mate.
Yeah, well, maybe double that then. So I think you'd be given a double. It'd be £16 for one drink. Now, I've asked this question time and time again to adults with children. How much do you invest in your children's refreshments weekly? And, oh yeah, we just get them fruit shoot, whatever. It's actually 8 for £3 or something like that. So that's enough. 2 of them, £6 a week. Yeah, great. Do you know what's in them? What else do you give them?
Yeah.
that's where you're left.
But it's limited on choice.
It is. That's where we're left. So you're right. It is game changing. And what we've done is and this has been important to me. We're not trying to put a price point on this where it's unobtainable for the masses. We are pound for pound the same price as Fruit Shoot. So
Okay.
from a retailer perspective, consumer perspective, we'll sell into the retailer for the same price. We'll give the same margins to a retailer. We'll give the same price point to the consumer. What we're doing differently is providing groundbreaking products that are available though. So we're putting it together. What we've done great here is we've packaged it well with emoji. So you've seen the concept, you've seen the images.
So such an emoji. Obviously, people know what an emoji is, but
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of it as an actual sort of brand and
it's a really interesting one. So over 13 billion emojis used daily. It's the third biggest recognized brand in the world. So it's now a language. And the children are using and communicating to each other digitally.
I don't think I've ever sent an emoji. I think I've sent one emoji to my wife. I think that is it. I don't think I've ever sent.
You probably sent me one when Liverpool won. A thumbs up.
Come on now, come on.
Apologies. No, but you think of this as it's the next generation. So emojis are what people are talking with now. Kids know them, parents know them. So why we decided to do that was try to convince a consumer that this product is, and make them look. So you've got to get the kid happy, and you've got to get the parent happy. So we reference parents are basically the person that purchases it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get a 3-year-old walking down Tesco's aisles and saying, I'm going to buy this, but they will see it and they will want to engage with it. So we've catered for both parts there. Emoji's brilliant. I think what they do and how they communicate can actually help us in our messaging. So if you have a look at the list next time you're on your iPhone and see all the different types of things, there's a World Emoji Day on the 17th of July. Mm. So it's a big thing. Third biggest recognised brand in the world. That is pretty phenomenal. We've partnered with them.
That's a partnership then?
It's a partnership. It's a 7-year global partnership with them. Really, really exciting from our point of view. Yeah. The CEO of Emoji is really excited about what we're doing. So we are doing something that's going to make a difference. And we, as I say earlier, from the same price point as our competitors. So it's a good, solid proposition from us as a business. So it's sustainable to keep that going and deliver it. What I'm excited about is what I did when you tasted them. You've tasted both types, and I think it was a clear winner. That's where we go back to the journey part we were talking about earlier. We've now got, in my opinion, I would like to say 10 out of 10, but I'm going to say 9 because I think there's always got to be left a little bit of room for improvement, and we'll keep going. But we've done a lot of tasting on this, and this is a product that's going to win, and it will make a big difference. No chemical sweeteners, no chemical ingredients. We have stayed true with the clear and transparent ethos of the brand. Yeah. So the products, all of our products, don't have colours in. So, we've got dandelion and burdock, which you pour out and it's clear, and you think, wow, what's going on there? But
tab clear back in the day.
I remember it well. Yeah, I remember it well. We've done it for that purpose, to be clear and transparent and honest. I think we mentioned this once in a conversation that was probably a little less formal, but we talked about how we want to be a bit of a bridge. So we don't want to be, forcing children especially just to drink our product. Mm-hmm. We want to encourage them to hydrate more, and we all know water's the best way to hydrate. So rather than it being a blue or a red or a green, and I want that colour, they can, with one of their senses, with sight, they can reference, it's the same as water. Hasn't got the flavour, but I'm closer to water. And that's where, ultimately we want people to be. We're not a water business. We never will be. But that's the best way for us to hydrate is water. Our products are always spring water only. Products are based around 99.5% water, so we're close. But it's an exciting opportunity coming our way in January.
That's cool.
Looking forward to it.
You've done really well. You mentioned then about a World Emoji Day. I mean, I think I need to get with the project here a little bit. But we're recording this in November, and we've just passed. You informed me about this earlier. World Diabetes Day.
Yeah.
What are the current figures nationally, domestically, nationally, internationally on diabetes?
It's an interesting one. There's two types of diabetes, which often get confused.
Yep.
And I'm asked, "Oh God, you don't look like you got diabetes." What does diabetes look like? In my case, type 1 is an autoimmune disease, so it's a critical illness. It's not great. I have to regulate my blood sugar levels daily. I have to inject myself probably 4 or 5 times a day. Historically, I've been quite ashamed of that, which sounds sad. As I've grown older and there's more awareness, people are becoming quite proud, if that's a way of describing it, and they're quite happy to, share that they've got it and inject, and they're not fearful. I'd hide away to inject. It was horrible. Right. Going back to the numbers, there's another type of diabetes called type 2, which is brought on by our diets. So sugars, excessive amounts of sugars, obesity. Go back to emoji. One in 3 children under 5 are classed as obese in the UK. Wow. It's frightening. Yeah, bad days. So the numbers are growing. They're not getting any smaller, but they do put them together. UK alone, there's over 5 million diabetics, which is quite alarming.
Right, so you spent a bit of time, Ian, talking around the business, talking around some of those challenges that you faced. The large manufacturing site that you got in Liverpool, which, you said, Christ, we get a football pitch on here, and you started putting the equipment in, and suddenly you realised, no, it wasn't probably quite as big as what you needed or what you anticipated. Talk us around the fundraising journey that you've been on, because you fundraise in a different way. If you think around where Zeus is, and we'll look at IPOs and private equity and different types of investment. You've fundraised for the business in a slightly different way.
Yeah, our journey's been, I suppose it's been different to what you might know. Started out very traditional, so friends, family, myself investing.
Some classic startup, yeah.
Yeah, and bootstrapped. You do what you can. It needs a bit more money, we'll put a bit more in. And we didn't have really a plan at that stage. Once it became, an established business with a great proposition, an investment proposition, I was introduced to the concept of crowdfunding, which I'd never done before. It baffled me actually that it seemed as simple as make a video, make a pitch deck, put it out to the masses, and next minute you get loads of money. Absolutely not the way. It's as important if I was coming into Zeus's office to do a pitch to individuals. They are clever people. It's their money. They've paid tax on this money. They've earned the money. They don't want to lose it. So it's not a gamble. It's not a bet. They're quite savvy. Most of the investors, and the crowd. What I found, what I like about it is, as long as you play fair, which is what we do, we give them time, because it's quite easy sometimes just to get the money and then ignore and then focus on the business. Those people want to know. We're still privately held, so we don't have any public requirements. What I like to do is engage with them, as often as possible. And the Seeders platform is really quite exciting. It's as close to being a publicly listed company, and people can trade shares on there. We've done 3 raises with them now.
Okay. Size of each raise then?
First one we targeted 500,000.
Okay.
I think we took about 1.8 million in the end, so it was quite a significant raise.
So you wanted 500,000, you did 1.8.
Yeah.
What happens when you're oversubscribed? What happens when you get to 499,999? You just keep going.
So you have a plan, and then quite quickly, so you want to execute plan A, and this is what you need to do. Then you see the momentum build, and you think, well, what could we do with this, and this? So you put in a ceiling limit, if you like. So seeing how successful that was, we then speeded up what we were going to do.
Okay.
And hence probably why we are where we are now. So in the last 12 months has been astronomical in terms of the change of the business.
So I interrupt you. So sorry, the first round then, You wanted 500,000. You did
1.8.
Second raise.
Second raise, I think the target was 850. We did about 1.7, 1.75. Third was our biggest in terms of what we wanted to raise. So we targeted 5 million, and we did something like 5.3 million.
So that's what, roughly about 8 million total,
in total, yeah. And I think on the last raise we didn't want to go too far into oversubscribing, because we'd now become a business that is quite strong. So the idea of dilution at that valuation for myself and other shareholders, why would you want to push? If that's what you need, we'll take that.
Future rounds then, do you anticipate going back to the crowd, or do you think
I think we'll always
financial institutions
be respectful of the crowd? So preemption would go back to the existing shareholders. So that's held as nominee in Cedars. We will be. I can see potentially 2 or 3 more investment rounds. One I think will be soon, and that will take us to a position come April next year where our business becomes significantly profitable, and the investment of, I want to call it phase 1, but it's probably phase 42. We'll cease investing and we'll start to make the business sweat and earn. So we'll have the canning line, which is in now, the bottling line that's going in, the factory that we're in now is just over 50,000 square foot with the extensions we've put to it. The brand house is in there, the manufacturing's in there, the MPD's in there. Everything will start to work. Next year's a big year for us. Big focus on brands though for next year. So depending on where that goes, and then potential international distribution into the US, there might be a further round. Going to the US is a great opportunity, but comes with some significant costs.
I think we are coming towards the end of that sort of COVID impact, COVID hangover, but I think whilst it's still prevalent, I'd be interested to see how did you guys, or how were you impacted during COVID?
I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing to say, because there's been some real sad stories with COVID. Personally, myself as an individual, I was high risk with being diabetic, but I firmly believe that COVID has influenced our business in an extremely positive way. And I think it's down to the attitude of the people that worked for the business and how we conducted ourselves, respectfully of the rules.
Yep.
But there was so much opportunity, and if you think back to toilet roll gate, there was a lot of panic buys and supply chain issues. It gave us an opportunity, in all honesty, to enter the market.
Cool.
I thought it was going to be 2 weeks like everyone else did, and we'll be back in work. It wasn't. We're still in it, aren't we? Really, it's a lot more relaxed, but it's still around. People are still getting COVID. We went from a business that didn't have a website or an Amazon store to, in about 4 weeks, we were number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5 best-selling tonics in the UK. Number 1 best-selling ginger. We were doing 15,000 orders a week. It was frightening, just how quick it grew. That allowed us then to build consumer base, get the information that we wanted, communicate to our. It was almost like it was a great big exercise of collecting information and feedback to then use that information to get to where we are today. And we've listened. We've done a lot of work, a lot of R&D, a lot of new product development, existing product development, and where we are now is because of what happened with COVID. Nice. If that didn't happen, we might not be sat here having the same conversation. Working with Lidl now, working with M&S, the opportunities have come our way because of COVID, I think.
Right. Final, question or two, I suppose. End of the podcast. For this season, we've got 2 questions that we finish each podcast on. A little bit on the spot. Who is your icon? And I'm slightly nervous on what the answer to this could well be. given your football team a choice, but hopefully it's a business answer rather than a sports one. But who's your icon? It can be any walk of life. And then what would you say to 21, 23-year-old Ian when you find out you had diabetes, to sort of what you can look back at now in terms of what you've grown? So your icon, and what would you say to your younger self?
Icon, I haven't really got an icon as such.
Oh, thank God for that. I thought you were going to go for something in red.
From a football perspective, I'd probably say it was John Barnes, which might surprise you. But growing up, he was
superstar.
He was just something else, wasn't he? He was a player that had it all. I still think he has. I think I played against him actually probably about 5-6 years ago. Yeah. But he was a player. He was a great guy. I think my icon, it's a weird one, I think, because you might not expect it, but one of the best things I ever had was my father. Luckily, I still have him, but he gave me everything I could possibly want as a child growing up. And the best thing I got from him was time. I still get it, which is great. I think it's absolutely invaluable.
Love that. Well done.
So that's my icon, John Barnes and my dad.
Younger self.
I think. Question would be, what would I say to myself? I think I've enjoyed growing as a diabetic. I think I've enjoyed my life. It hasn't restricted me as much as I first thought. I was petrified. The first time I had to inject, it took me 8 hours to do it. It's not that hard, What I'd probably say to my younger self though is don't let anything stop you. Anyone that's 23 today, I'd encourage, go and see the world. Go and see more. I've probably stayed too close to home. So as a tourist, I've seen quite a lot of the world, but not the true, staying in a hotel versus actually seeing what's going on around. I wish I'd have done that. I didn't go to uni. Maybe I would have tried harder in school, but it hasn't worked out too bad so far.
That's good. Well, you got 48 hours in London. You can do some sightseeing.
Yeah, all work, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Ian, thank you for taking the time to visit us. Thank you for accepting to do some video content for us as well.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure having you on the Founder in Chief podcast.
Thanks, Paul.
This content is issued by Zeus Capital Limited, which is authorised and regulated in the United Kingdom by the Financial Conduct Authority for designated investment business and is a member firm of the London Stock Exchange. Nothing in this podcast should be viewed as investment advice. Listeners should consult an investment professional before making any decisions regarding topics mentioned in this podcast. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not of Zeus. Please note that participants in this podcast may have financial interests in the matters discussed.